And then I'm going to go to the channel to make sure it's live, youtube.com/IABA-Austin. Okay, we are live, and I'm going to pin your video. Sheikh Jaffer, can you test right now?
Let's see, 1, 2.
All right, I'm just going to check to make sure it shows up on the channel.
Okay.
Okay, you're good. You can go ahead. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا له فداء. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
First and foremost, I advise myself for taqwa Allah, consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then I advise each of you for taqwa Allah, consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what exactly is this consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What does it mean to be truly aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In the past, I've always given this example that taqwa Allah, or being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is being like that little child who is lost in the market. Because taqwa literally means a state between fear and hope. And so that young child who is lost in a market often is crying, having some fear that they will never reconnect with their parent who they came to the market with. But at the same time, they have hope. And this is why they call out to their parent. This is the example that I often give, but we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, in Surah Fussilat, chapter 41 of the Quran, verse 53, he gives a good example, an understanding of what this taqwa Allah is. What is this consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How should we be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he states therein, سُنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ أَوَلَمْ يَكْفِي بِرَبِّكَ أَنَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ شَهِيدٌ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that surely we will show them our signs in the heavens, in the afaq, and within themselves, until it becomes very clear to them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَنَّهُ حَقٌّ, that he is true, that he exists, that he is everywhere. So when we understand this, we see that our consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we often study in theology, to some extent is based on this concept, or this, what we call Burhan al-Nazm, the order of this universe, the order of this world. We learn this. And we learn that, well, this world has not come into existence haphazardly. Ourselves have not come into existence haphazardly or out of chance. But there's a very beautiful and higher order to this. But when we say that we are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we see this order, we see the example of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we see the effects of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is only one level of consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we say that we should be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it does not simply mean that, oh, well, we've learned this in our books of theology, we read this, and we suffice, and we are content with this level of consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But rather, we should constantly be honing our awareness, our consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this idea and concept of taqwa Allah. This is perhaps one of the reasons why it is recommended every Friday on the day of Jum'ah to remind the believers of taqwa Allah, so that we may increase our taqwa, we may increase our consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we simply don't suffice with what we've read in our books of theology, what we read in the madrasa, but no, we constantly look for and understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be conscious and aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a more profound level. For example, we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, He is the cause of all causes. And this is something, this idea of the world not coming into existence haphazardly or everything has a cause. Even the physicists, although many of them are atheists, even the physicists say, they said, no, everything has a cause, that nothing is without a cause. However, when it comes to the cause of all causes, this is where they pause and they hesitate. But even if we look into that idea and that concept from the point of view of physics, we'll understand it, yes. There must be a cause of everything. There must be a cause of this universe, of everything. Likewise, we will find biologists, another group of sciences, that, again, they differ from the physicists as some extent. So the physicists, they try to explain this universe and everything based on physics and matter. So the biologists, they will oppose this. They say, well, you know what? Life does not come from matter. So that thing which produces matter, or again, you cannot extract life from matter. That life in itself is a completely different aspect or dimension of existence, which does not come from matter. So again, they go back to this kind of basic concept that we have in theology, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the cause of all causes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that one of His essential qualities is haya, life, and He gives life to everything. And again, these are all aspects of the Burhan al-Nazm, the proof of, you could say, order that we may tend to lean on when we come to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when we look at the traditions of Ahlul Bayt, alayhim afdal salatu wasalam,
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
they speak of a higher level of consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Take, for example, the question that one individual asked Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salatu wasalam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
This is someone who had come to Imam Ali, who was previously an idol worshiper. He asked Imam, he says, how is it that you worship a God that you don't see? So Imam Ali, he responded, he says, I don't. He says that whenever I look before me or behind me, above me or beneath me, in every place, he says, I see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Imam Ali, he says, na'udhu billah, we don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the eyes, this fleshy eyes, but we see Him with the eyes of our heart. So this is also another level of consciousness and awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even beyond that as well, we find that Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam,
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
in the dua of Arafah, he points again to a even higher level of consciousness and awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, taqwa, one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also alludes to in verse 53 of Surah Al-Fussilat, so chapter 41, 53, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَمْ يَكْفِي أَوَلَمْ يَكْفِي بِرَبِّكَ أَنَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ شَهِيدٌ. Is it not sufficient that your Lord, He witnesses everything? In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is both shahid and mashhud. He is the one who witnesses and testifies to His own oneness, as we also read in the Quran, that Allah shahid Allah annahu la ilaha illahu. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who bears witness, and He is the one who is testified to. He is the one who has given us the perception and the insight to testify and to witness His being and His creation. So that is a higher level of consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not simply through the heart, but in one's entire being and understanding of this world and this universe. Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, in Dua Arafah, he has this line, he says, مَتَى غِبْتَ حَتَّى تَحْتَاجُ إِلَى دَلِيلٍ يَدُلُّ عَلَيْكِ. he's making dua and supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying that, "Oh Allah, when have you been absent? When have you been hidden? That you're in a state of ghaib." He says, when have you gone into the state of ghaib so that you would need a proof, a belief, in order to make you evident? Amiyat aynun la tarak. That the eyes that do not see you, the eyes of our heart, the eyes of one's perception, their insight, their existence, says that eye that does not see you, that eye is blind. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's not hidden, that He is around us in every aspect. But again, it takes us to purify our hearts and to walk that path of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, to come into this degree and this level of consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives all of us this insight and purity of heart, so that we may be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we may have consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as we should. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
اللهم صل على محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، أرواحنا له فداء. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وكذلك نوري إبراهيم ملكوت السماوات والأرض وليكون من الموقنين. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
As we have spoken about in our last few Jummah messages and also the khutbah of Friday, that our criterion for politics is al-adl. As Imam Ali he stated, and this is a criterion which exists for everyone. Imam Ali, he also states with regards to our deen, again, we are folks who believe in the idea and the concept of a theocracy, a government or governance in which religion is at its center, at its core. But it is also based on this idea and concept of justice. This is why Imam Ali, he states, "Siyasatul deen bi husn al-wara' wal yaqeen." He says that the theocracy, or you say the politics or the management of faith and one's affair and one's deen, is based on husn al-wara'. Husn al-wara', and wara' means to be God conscious, to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as one governs, as one interacts and assumes a position of leadership and management and governing people, is based on this idea of God consciousness, being aware of your responsibility towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wal yaqeen, and certainty. And that certainty, as we know, if we refer back to the letter of Imam Ali to Malik Ashtar, that certainty is to know that when one steps into that role, he or she is responsible before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He or she is accountable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is not a person has free for all. So a person is responsible and has that responsibility to act like the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do their best to be that representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon this earth. One very beautiful and interesting example of this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he raised Ibrahim to himself. He raised Ibrahim up, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in Surah Al-An'am, verse 75, That's chapter 6 of the Quran, verse 75. He says, وَكَذَلِكَ نُورِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَلَكُوتَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He showed Ibrahim the kingdom of the heavens and the earth. لِيَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُوقِنِينَ, so that he may gain certainty. Again, Imam Ali, he says, سِيَاسَةُ الدِّينِ حُسْنُ الْوَرْعِ وَالْيَقِينِ. To have, again, to be conscious of God, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be God-fearing, and also to have certainty of one's accountability before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to have certainty in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to govern, to manage, to interact with others. So in one of the beautiful hadith regarding this verse of the Quran, it stated that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He elevated the status of Ibrahim so that he can be among those who are certain, He showed him, Ibrahim was able to see everything in the heavens and earth, all the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the heavens and earth, to see and understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees, that he witnesses and sees everything. So it says that Ibrahim, as he looked upon the earth and he saw two individuals engaged in debauchery, Ibrahim says, Da'a alayhima, and he prayed against them. That, oh Allah, that these people are disobedient to you and you should remove them, destroy them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted the dua of this prophet, answered it. So Allah removed them. Again, Ibrahim saw another group of people that, again, they were engaged in disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, Ibrahim, he made dua. Says, oh Allah, these individuals, they're disobedient to you, they're engaged in shameful acts. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted that dua, answered that dua. These people were also destroyed. And then there was a third group of people, again, Ibrahim, we saw that we're engaged in this or disobedience to you. So it says that Ibrahim, again, he hamma bid-du'a alayhi, that he wanted to make dua over against them because they were disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He stopped Ibrahim. And He told Ibrahim, He says, listen, that أن تنفعني طاعتهم ولست أسوسهم بشفاء الغيب كسياستك فاكفوا دعوتك عن عبادك. He says that, listen, their obedience doesn't benefit me. Yes, they are engaged in disobedience to me, but even if they were obeying me, He said it's not to my benefit. Nor is their disobedience that which is something that is detrimental. So I do not, again, manage them or manage my creation in this way that, well, they have to be obedient in every aspect. So if they're not, then I'll destroy them immediately. He says, so my interaction, my engagement, my management of them is not like your management. And this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking to His prophet, teaching him what is this siyasat deen? What is this theocracy? That it has to have compassion and mercy. Not simply, oh, someone's done something wrong and you remove them. No, it has that compassion and mercy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He told Ibrahim, He says, this is enough. Don't make this dua, because otherwise you will see that each and every moment Ibrahim, he will make dua against the creation of Allah because of our shortcomings. So the aspect of this is that if we are engaged, if we are managing, if we're interacting with one another, that we should be and have, as Imam Ali, he says, siyasatul deen husnul wara' wal yaqeen, to be God-fearing, meaning that we interact with people based on what we understand from the Prophet, based on, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's interaction with His creation, at times forgiving and merciful, but also have certainty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is witnessing everything and that we will be accountable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He hasten the appearance of Imam Zaman, make us among His helpers and His companions, and those who sacrifice their lives for Him. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا واقض حوائجنا واشف مرضانا ورحم أمواتنا وعجل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان واجعلنا من أعوانه من سائره المستشهدين بين يديه وتحت لواء بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.